What was life like for you during the pandemic as an artist?
COVID has been very difficult, and it's been difficult for everybody. There's no question there. But for us, it's first, we were not able to play with other people for so long. And that was very difficult because that's part of the reason that I love playing.
As a musician, I'm both a cellist and a composer. Last year, I had some amazing performances of my work scheduled. It was like this year where it was like, wow, all of a sudden I had a orchestra in Illinois was playing a piece I'd written. That was the first thing that got canceled. And I also was going to be flying out to New York to hear this wonderful cellist Thomas Mesa play a piece of mine in New York City. Spectral String Quartet was going to be premiering a piece of mine on a program in April. Kalamazoo Symphony had commissioned me a piece for the 100th anniversary. All of this stuff, one by one, just chopping off. And, it was hard not to take it really personally. But after a while, it's like, it's not all about me, not always. So I've gotten a little more philosophical about that.
How hard has it been for you with COVID-19 changing everything?
You got me. It's been pretty devastating. As a classical musician, you spend most of your life preparing to do something that you love, right? So most of my life choices have been in the direction of playing music for a career. And when you set aside so many other things to be able to dedicate your time and your energy and your love to something, when it's gone, it feels really, really, there's an absence that I can't describe. I know I speak for a lot of us when I say that last summer and into the fall was a serious time of introspection, a little bit of identity crisis. I didn't realize how much of my self-esteem and self-confidence was wrapped up in what I do. Lots of therapy.
Yeah.
I'm still in therapy. Definitely reevaluating the type of person I would like to be and how music and art will fit into that rather than being the sole purpose of my existence.
There was this whole beginning of the pandemic when I was basically trapped, and where I felt guilty that I wasn't using this kind of alone time to do something more important or better with my time. But I realized I needed time to process what was going on in the world, and I couldn't move past that artistically without first dealing with it. And so I started to work a lot with video and video editing.
For me, my full-time job went fully remote once COVID started. So I was working from home and then also doing my business as well in the evenings still. One thing that worked for me was that I was already selling online primarily. And so there wasn't a whole lot of having to transition and pivot.
We needed to change how we did things because we couldn't meet in person.
Suddenly when that COVID, hit, it's like, we can't have our in-person recitals. Right. So we all really had to learn, what is that, ZOOM, Zoom? Yeah, right. and I have to say, it was a challenge, learning and getting your ID in your links, and we put our heads together. And I have to give a shout out to Alexis, our violin teacher. She really took a lead in that and helping us to learn.
So I started teaching 3 of my students virtually. Internet connection was an issue, and timing, and we're dealing with a pandemic, right? We're all having to adjust. But once we got into the flow of things, it was great. It was awesome. And now I'm up to teaching 7 students virtually.
Feels weird to say it, but I saw a lot of growth in my business during the pandemic. I think people really started to resonate with supporting local, shopping small, seeing how the pandemic was impacting small businesses. I think it put it in people's hearts to really think about, could I buy this locally from someone in my community? Could I support a small business at this time and really help out those individuals?
As a violinist or a harp player or a cellist, you can be at home, you have your instrument, and you can spend as much time as you need or want with your instrument. Me, as a conductor, my instrument, they say it's the instrument with 100 heads. I need people in front of me in order to be able to do what I do. So I have to say, the very first time when I came back to conduct, and this was after almost a year without having done it, I felt very strange. I felt, first of all, some doubt as to whether I really remembered how to do this, but of course I did. It all came back. But it was other things that really struck me. It was the emotional impact of finally being again in a room full of people, sharing the same purpose, making music together, having sound, real sound to work with. It wasn't great. At first we had air filters running. We had all sorts of shielding up in between us, masks, of course. There were all these obstacles, but I was wonderfully surprised at how quickly your mind adapts and you just change and you can focus on the thing that you care about.
I was noticing a lot of different layers of nervousness that I hadn't before. First week back after not having played since first week of March 2020, playing a solo for the first time with my home orchestra, which has its own set of nerves. COVID-19 restrictions, which can feel a little uncomfortable when you're trying to do something that you love with people that you want to hug and care about.
I just recorded my senior recital for my graduation at Western, and I got in the car with my mom afterward because she was there recording, and she turned to me and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, that was kind of boring. Like, I didn't have the pleasure of like seeing everybody afterward and like talking to them and making sure they enjoyed the performance. It was just kind of me standing there playing for a camera, and my mom enjoyed it. She was like, "You sound really great." And I was like, "Thanks, Mom." But it just wasn't the same.
When we do go back to regular recitals, I think the students and the teachers, I think we're going to appreciate it even more.
If we want to tell everybody out there, get your COVID shots.
That's right.
We both had both of ours.
Support for Kalamazoo Lively Arts is provided by the Irving S. Gilmore Foundation, helping to build and enrich the cultural life of Greater Kalamazoo.